So, do you romanticize alcohol? You want to take it out for a nice steak dinner or a nice, quote unquote, bottle of wine? That's what we're going to be talking about today. How many of us look at alcohol like it's this wonderful elixir of life and it's hard to get rid of. And, I think that can be a challenging part of this process, right? When you want to dabble in going alcohol free, going sober, whatever you want to call it, or changing a relationship, even taking a break from it. One of the hardest things to do that is if you still have a high view of alcohol. So that's what we're going to get into. By the way, thanks for being here. My name is Chris Shattuck. Got Lauren Howman and Matt Gardner. Hey guys.
Well, hi there.
Hey,
Hi.
So the three of us run a little coaching program called Freedom from Alcohol, and I say little, but actually it has a massive impact because over 100 clients now have gone through the program, and it's amazing to watch people go from this place of struggle to thriving and hopelessness to excitement about their life. And that is, what we want to come across on this podcast is quitting drinking alcohol doesn't have to be a bad thing. It can be an amazing thing. And it's all in how you look at it. It makes such a difference in how you approach it, right? Because if you come into this thing with, oh man, I got to give up this thing that's my buddy, my best friend. It's there on the bad days, it's there on the good days. It doesn't judge me. I'm so used to this. I got to give that up. As opposed to, all right, alcohol's fucking up my life. It's making me miserable. Let's be honest about this. I know I'm made for more. I know I'm going to be more productive. I'm going to have more energy. Let's get excited about where we're going and who gives a shit that we're leaving alcohol behind. Right? That's the whole premise behind what we do in our Freedom from Alcohol coaching program. And one of the things that keeps people stuck or keeps people going back to alcohol is this romanticization. How would I say that? Romanticization. Who knows how to say it properly? I'm not a
I can't
linguistic
do it
person.
either.
Yeah.
Romanticization,
Fantasization.
Something in there.
Yes.
Um, if you're a teacher, if you are a grammatical person, I can't even say that right. Leave a comment below. Let us know how we say that properly. Anyway, if you have it up on a pedestal,
or
meaning
don't, because if you're leaving a comment, we're gonna read it and still not know how to say it. So just forget about it
exactly,
and just
unless you can do
exclude
it
us.
phonetically,
Yeah, there you go.
which that's a big word. I'm pretty proud of myself for being able to pronounce that one.
2 points.
That's big
Um,
words today, Chris. Good. $5 words.
hey, that's 3 months of college right there. So
Yeah.
there you go. Um, anyway, I digress. So we're talking about, putting alcohol on this pedestal where, oh my God, I can't live without it. When people say things like a nice glass of wine, oh, I just want to go to Italy so I can have a nice glass of wine, or I'm used to going out to this fancy steak restaurant where my wife and I have this nice bottle of wine. There's no such thing as a nice bottle of anything. It's all poison. It's all alcohol. That's one of the things from Craig Beck's book that always has stuck with me. The because he talks about how he was like a fancy wine connoisseur and snob and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, you know what? If you go and you need a liver transplant or you're dead and the doctor cuts you open and they're not going to be like, oh, thank God you drank the good stuff. It's all poison. It's all killing you. So I don't know. You guys speak to that, Lauren. What do you think about when you think about when people romanticize alcohol?
Goodness. So I have plenty of examples from myself and from my clients, but I kind of see it in two ways. For myself, I was the person that put it up on this pedestal. Like she was she was a she. I gave her a personality even, but she was my bestie. So my wine was like my person, my go-to. She was always saying like, "Hey, I can make this better." So when I thought about quitting drinking, I really thought, "Gosh, I'm going to lose my best friend." She is kind of always there for me. And those weren't exactly the words in my head, but there was this strong fear of losing this connection with this thing that was so helpful for me. Um, and then really turns out she was a frenemy, right? So she was definitely stabbing me in the back and saying things like, I can fix your anxiety, drink me. And it would get fixed, it would come down. But she was causing the anxiety. So on that 24-hour cycle, I was needing to be fixed from my anxiousness. And she was saying, hey, that's me. But she was the one making me anxious in the first place. So that's the first way I kind of see like putting that wine or that bottle or up on that pedestal. And I started to get into that whole thing about buying the expensive wine too, which is just the stupidest thing. Because you're right, when they cut you open on your autopsy, they're not going to say, damn, she was drinking that $45 stuff. Look at her go. She was privileged. And look at how much better her liver did because of that, right? It was just
Yep.
more expensive, but it made us feel better about what we were doing because I was like a wine connoisseur as well, not on the same level as Craig Beck by any means, but I was very everybody else was drinking white wines and I was drinking red. I was a Cabernet and a Merlot. So I was very fancy about it. So, and then
Did
the
you
other
do the
way,
swirling and the smelling and all that kind of fancy stuff?
no, no. And I'm too goofy for all that. So I would do like a swirl and like a sniff and be like, this is going to be good. But it wasn't like that whole, first of all, we're never going to put wine in our mouth, swish it around and spit it out. I'm not spitting things out at a table,
Right.
but also
I've
it's
never understood
alcohol.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's alcohol. So the person that was an alcohol drinker was going to drink it. Okay, we're not going to get rid of it. We can go
Right.
wine
Otherwise, it's
tasting.
alcohol abuse, right?
There we
Right,
go.
right. Like
Yep.
that's a party
Yep.
foul.
Yep.
But so then the other way I see the romanticizing of alcohol is with some of my female clients, especially. So I had a client at one point who was the martini person, and you guys probably know who I'm talking about. But she would just have a whole new personality come out in her when the martini glass would come out because it was like fancy time. And she kind of would get like a certain different walk going on and just kind of sauntering around the house, sashaying. I'm trying to think of the right word to give you guys a mental picture, but she just had this personality of like, oh, look at me, it's wine time, it's martini time, and I'm being fancy and I'm an adult, and kind of just putting herself in a place where she was the main character. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I
And
think she would, if I know who you're talking about, she would talk about how she would watch Mad Men and watch them with their fancy drinks, and that would make
yes,
her feel fancy with the martinis and all that stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
yes. So that's an example to me of like romanticization, or however we're going to say that word. Okay. And then I also think of like those old country songs where you've lost your dog, your wife, the house, the kids, but you're sitting at the 2-bit diner out on the dusty road. It's pouring down rain and you're staring out the window. The camera is filming you from outside. So it's just catching your like distorted face through the rainfall, and you're just consoling that cup of coffee with two hands, just, oh, and that's like that kind of main character energy that I feel is associated with romanticizing your life or romanticizing a drink or anything like that.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's interesting too, the fancy wines. I mean, there's been studies where they've fooled people, right? Like the people pick,
Yeah.
oh, this is
Yeah.
the expensive one, and it turns out that's the $5 piss that everybody else is drinking. So nobody
Yeah.
really knows. It's like, get over
I love that.
yourself. And
I love it.
I was never fancy. I was the guy who would buy the cheapest shit because I really didn't care. And I would when I would try buy, you know, never Miller Lite because that shit really was piss. But it was Coors Light, and I was always buying the cheap stuff. Um, but as far as the putting it up on a pedestal, yeah, not I couldn't imagine it not being there because I had it in this light. What about you, Matt? Did you ever romanticize the
Yeah, yeah.
booze?
It very much was part of my identity, like the rock and roll lifestyle, right? As soon as I got into playing in a band and then reading, like Led Zeppelin biographies, the biographies about the Who, like all these crazy bands from the 60s, 70s that were just doing uppers, downers, like drinking 20 beer, all this different things. So yeah, to me, that was like, you know, glamorized, romanticized, all the above, right? And to me, that's sort of like the badge of honor. You get hammered and then you're still able to play a show and then go to go to work the next morning. And, that's like this badge of honor for some reason. That's cool that you're all
Yeah.
hungover and underperforming essentially at work, but you think that you are doing some great work and you've powered through, and then, the cycle and continues that next evening and you just keep going with it. So yeah, that was my life. I romanticized that whole lifestyle. That was my identity. We talk about identity and changing it to a non-drinker. Before that, it was like rock and roll musician, right? And hand in hand with that was the romanticization of the booze. So yeah, big time. For me, it's funny you mentioned, Chris, the cheap shit. I always want to shout out to any Canadian listeners. Lucky Lager. I don't think you guys have that down in the States, do you?
No, it doesn't sound familiar.
Yeah.
No, we got
I
Labatt
call it
Blue.
Okay. Yeah, oh, of course. Dude, that's like the ultimate hipster beer. But this is
Yeah.
like almost a step below that. And I called it like the champagne of cheap beer. I used to call it, and I would just drink, 8 to 12 of those a day. And the second time, as listeners may or may not know, I had a 3-year alcohol-free stint, and when I went back, I very much got drawn into like the microbrewery thing and like the local beers and like the IPAs and all that stuff. So that was I guess my excuse or justification is like, I'm not drinking the Lucky Lager anymore. I'm into this like new like microbrewery IPAs, and I'm still drinking, but like I'm trying this moderation thing, and I'm doing it with these, I'm supporting local, all these other justifications were coming in. So it was just a more, I guess, elaborate way to figure out ways to romanticize it. Yeah, just final moment for me, I think you talk about, Lauren was talking about the wine culture. I think for men, growing up very much conditioned for whatever reason, it's like, mow the lawn and have a beer right after, like that hot summer day, like for whatever reason, there's like that conditioning, that stereotype, that cliche. And that still comes up to me. If I'm going to have a non-alcoholic beer, it'll be often after I do some yard work. So there are certain things that are powerfully still in my subconscious that very much, romanticize drinking and camping, very much camping. So I'll have a few, zero Heinekens out when camping for whatever reason. That one's still very powerfully implanted in the back of my subconscious there. So yeah, that's my what comes up for me when we're talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the programming is deep. You look at the TV shows like we were talking about a minute ago, Mad Men. You see at the end of a long, hard day, the detective comes home and pours himself a nice, big, expensive glass of scotch. And, we just associate with, well, that guy's sophisticated, he's just going to have one scotch and he's a man. And all these little programs are definitely running in our head. But really, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how expensive it is. It doesn't matter what brand it is. It's still poison. There's no difference between the person who's in Las Vegas on the street corner with a brown paper bag swilling whatever that is to, the $100, the $200 bottle service. Oh my God. People pay hundreds of dollars for a bottle of vodka at clubs and stuff like that. It's just ridiculous to me.
Right.
But we justify it. There's all these sort of things that we will use to justify it. And one of the best things you can do for yourself is just reframing. Anytime you think, oh man, I wish I could have a nice glass of whatever, reframe it to alcohol is poison. Just start saying that in your brain because it literally is poison. And you'll start associating alcohol, no matter how fancy it is, that it's poison. And that alone can have a massive impact.
Definitely.
Yeah.
They always say, I think it's the same thing like Craig Beck book or one of those Quit Lit books is it's attractively, what is it? Attractively packaged poison. Yes. I'm like, yes, that nails it, right? Just like dressing it up, making it look all this, all the pictures that you see in the summertime, the billboards, and somebody's outside and doing some kind of action scene and they have the beer in their hand and all this type of stuff, right? Attractively.
And the sex, you're gonna, oh God, you're gonna get laid if you are drinking,
Right.
that the money that's poured into marketing,
It's like billions
of dollars are spent on it. And that's one of the things when you become a non-drinker, you start seeing that.
Yes.
And you're like, oh damn, oh that's really, I see what they're doing there. Yeah, that's
Right.
an important part of this, to become aware of all that stuff, because that's what's getting into your programming right there. So yeah, so it is important to take alcohol off the pedestal. There's nothing good about it. It is like, Lauren, you were kind of saying this earlier, like, oh, it's my buddy, but then it's stabbing me in the back. And
yeah,
it's kind of like that, your college roommate, and you guys used to have a bunch of fun together and hang out and all that kind of stuff. But eventually now they're just obnoxious and they're keeping you up late and they're not paying the rent and they're making your life miserable. And you just got to kick the roommate out. Like it can be hard to let go of that, something that's been a part of our life for so long. And that's where the romanticization, God damn it, I can't know how to pronounce that
Matt's
word.
the only one, and he didn't even make a big deal out of it. He just said it correctly and moved on, like he was just too cool for school. Just one.
Well, what is it, Matt? I missed that. What is it?
He said it.
Romanticization.
Well,
there you go.
Yeah.
So
French
we don't.
something.
Oh, sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
No, I'm done.
We don't want to just leave the listeners with nothing here. So we've kind of identified the problem. Now, what is the solution? How do we get through life without romanticizing alcohol. So we're sober curious, or we have recently quit, but we are finding that we're romanticizing, where we're thinking about, gosh, how am I going to do this backyard patio thing this summer? If I cut the grass, I've got to have a beer. So how can we, I'm asking you guys, how can we still have that romantic, like if you've got, I've got a lot of female clients with that main character energy, like they're in a movie, damn it, and y'all don't know it, but she does. And so how can you still romanticize your life, or romanticize these special events, or romanticize your relaxation practices without the poison?
Well, one of the things I think is reframing it again to say alcohol is poison, getting that into your brain that it's not fancy. You can be fancy, you can be sexy, you can go do all these things without alcohol. And so we need to disassociate the alcohol. It's like if you want to go dance in your living room and crank up the music and be goofy and silly, you don't need a drink to do that. If you want to go to a barbecue and hang out with people, it's the hanging out with people, it's the camaraderie, it's the conversations that you're having that makes it fun. It's not the alcohol. So what I would say to that question is to start being hyper aware of that. Like alcohol is not what's making the situation better.
Yeah.
It's you being you. It's you taking the mask off and enjoying whatever it is that you're doing. And you know what? If you want to mow the lawn and you want a non-alcoholic beer, go ahead and have one. I mean, nothing wrong with that. It's there's so many alternatives out there today. It's not just the old days where it was like you got O'Doul's and that's basically it. And then
Yeah.
everybody's like, oh, there's the guy drinking O'Doul's. Oh, geez, he must have a freaking problem. It's not like that anymore. You have so many different options to go and have a non-alcoholic drink, whether it's a mocktail or Athletic Brewing Company. They don't pay us, but I've heard a lot of people talk about how good their stuff is. So go have some of that shit and you'll see you still have fun, you know? Matt, I mean, anything to add there?
Yeah, I was just gonna go like the placebo thing, right? Like just it's always gonna be important for me, or just the ritualistic to have. Like I still love the sound. It does something to my brain and just my makeup as far as just like cracking open a can, man. So like I got bubbly water, yeah. So just having that placebo effect, having something in your hand so you don't feel all awkward. When you hear of people that quit smoking cigarettes, they often will use like a pen or something just to kind of bridge that first few months or whatever, because they're just so used to it, the physicality of it, right? So that was huge for me. So yeah, I mean, just to further what you said there, Chris, the placebo thing is massive for me.
Yeah, get a club soda and put a lime, put a lemon in there and make it seem like you're having a fancy drink. I mean, doctor it up, put some mint leaves in there, put some basil. I don't know. Again, I was never really fancy, so I don't know what people put in their drinks like that, but whatever it was, just make the drink without alcohol, without poison in it, and you'll be just fine. And there was something else I was going to add there, but I forgot. So anyway, yeah, that's I think it's a good conversation to have because a lot of people don't even realize that they're doing it. We'll have people come and join our community and they'll start talking about, yeah, I used to like to go out and have this nice glass of whatever it is. And I'll always correct them because our language really is important. And if you want to make a change, you got to change your language around it. So
Yeah.
if you catch yourself saying things like that and romanticizing it, you know, pay attention and change that and go, wait a minute, is it really a nice glass of wine or is it really an expensive glass of poison? Like I could go under my sink and pour myself some bleach for free, you know what I mean, instead of in getting the same sort of effect. Like I'm being dramatic, obviously, but that's the way that you have to start reframing it in your brain. Like you wouldn't order a $15 glass of cyanide, so why are you ordering a $15 glass of ethanol that's just been diluted, right? Oh, it's got some Coke in it. It's got some orange juice. So
Sure.
whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know.
for sure.
So there you go. Stop romanticizing alcohol. If, by the way, you need more help with this, you want some support, you want to be in a wonderful community, come join us in the Freedom from Alcohol Facebook group. Got a wonderful place in there. So we'd love to have you in there. And if you like this podcast, if you've taken anything away from it, share it with somebody who you believe could benefit from it. Leave us a review. You know, right? It helps if they don't just do the 5-star thing. They should put a few words in there if they could, right,
Yeah,
Matt?
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So if you 5-star and just accompany it with some words, it gets a lot more legs that way, apparently with the Apple podcast.
We'll bribe you. I mean, that's why we're telling you to do
Hey,
this. This
I'm
is a
down to it. Absolutely.
yeah,
We're above it.
we're not above that.
Yeah.
Because this is a relatively new podcast, and we want more people to be able to listen to it. And by you supporting and leaving a comment, leaving a review, sharing it with people, that's how it gets out there. So we appreciate you doing that. And if you do want to be one of the people that works with us one-on-one with, and we have a really awesome community of people within our Freedom from Alcohol specific coaching program, where we do hypnosis, we do reprogramming these subconscious minds. What we're talking about today, that romanticizing, that is a program that's running in your brain. And one of the things that we do is take those programs out so that when you've been 3, 4, 5 weeks down the road without alcohol, that program doesn't start running again. And you all of a sudden find yourself mowing the lawn or at a fancy restaurant going, oh man, why does alcohol seem so appealing? We can take that program out. And that's one of the things that we do. And so, you know, uh, we have a 96% success rate for a reason. The people that show up and work with us, man, it's great to watch them transition and change their lives. And you can be one of those people too. So if that's something that you want to work with us on, you can go to the website. It'll be down below, but it's coachedbychris.com. Schedule a consultation, and you can actually watch right there at our website interviews that we've done with past clients. So it's not just us tooting our own fucking horn here. You can hear it from real people and where they were at, their story, you know, and see like why this works. So go do that. That's all I got. You guys got anything else? Sorry, I just dropped a F bomb there. I didn't mean to
no
scare you
worries.
guys.
Gotta let it out sometimes.
I would
just
say,
had one.
over here thinking like hashtag stay fancy. Like you don't have to be boring just because you're alcohol free. So hey, if it's not triggering, keep your martini glass. If you want to have that in a beer when you're camping, kick your feet up and have that. Can you still have a romantic life? Absolutely. So like when Matt's out there jamming, he's still like in his zone. He's still in that rocker persona, but he doesn't have to have a drink to make it happen. It was never about the drink. So I don't
I
want
was
anybody
gonna,
to think they have to be boring or unfancy.
I was gonna mention
Yes.
too, Lauren, is like, yeah, there's been many times over the years of alcohol free that I've caught myself going, man, I feel like I got a bit of a buzz now, and I'm now realizing, to your point, like when I'm playing live music, it's just the natural, brain chemistry that happens from being excited and happy with my life, and I'm like, man, I kind of feel like I'm buzzing right now. I'm like, did I actually have a drink? I'm like, no, I've been good. So it still happens, right? All the different excitement levels that you get from being out and being social, that still happens, right? You still get the rewarding brain chemistry. Final note, one of our clients said on one of our group calls, oftentimes it's not, we're craving an experience versus actually craving the drink. So if you can really pull, I thought that was a very intelligent way of putting it.
Yes.
If you can pull the drink out of it. I want to be in a loud live music environment because it's exciting, it's reckless, you don't really know what's going to happen, right? That's what I want to be. And the drink just happened to be there, right? So if you can pull that back and be like, okay, I want to go do that. And just remember, it's an experience, and it doesn't have to include, in fact,
Nice.
it doesn't have to include the alcohol whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So go crush your alcohol-free life. If you need help, reach out to us. We are here to help. And thank you for listening. We're here every Tuesday with a new episode. We will catch you guys next time on Freedom from Alcohol.
Bye.